Welcome back, one and all. My name is Eltimar, and we are going to be continuing our Let's Play of Torment, Tides of Numenera. Where we left off last time, we had escaped the sanctuary, and apparently everyone died or got whisked away.
Yes.
We are here alone now. Dracogen has asked us to go procure an item called the Magmatic Amulet. Looks like there's a woman in trouble over here. Her name is Qian. A woman, barefoot and in rags, stands defensively beside her tent. Despite her obvious poverty, she crosses her arms and holds her chin high. And what do you want? You look like you could use some help. Honestly, you do. She lowers her arms. An offer of help? That's certainly a first. Yes, I admit I could use some. I've had my fill of predators and the insane. She points her chin in the direction of the tunnels that leads out of the courtyard. They're called Delny and Vrung. They've been squeezing money out of me for months. Protection, they call it, though obviously they only mean from them. I wish I could do more than simply cave to their demands, but as you can see, I'm not exactly equipped to defend myself. It's all I can do to survive. Maybe I can help. Where did they go? They crawl out of a hole somewhere deeper in the bloom. Little Nilyish, I think it's called. I'm not the sort of to wish violence upon anyone, even people like them, but I hope something happens to stop them. Tell me again about them. They're from Little Nilyish? Okay, fine. Tell me about yourself. She gives a weak smile and curtsy. My name is Qian, the bloom's most pitiable storyteller and self-styled innkeeper, though I admit that inn is far too fine a word for my little tent. Still, I can provide a meal, a bedroll, and at least a modicum of entertainment in the form of tales from my homeland. Before I came here, I was a noblewoman, believe it or not, a courtier from Sturthal. She gets a faraway look in her eyes. It feels like a previous life. I wonder if I'll ever find my way back. She shakes her head. I suspect not. How'd you get here? You've seen the Kina, I assume. She gestures broadly at the massive broken vehicle behind her, being slowly submerged by bloom flesh. Ew. It's kind of a magical carriage, capable of traveling great distances by skipping over the space in between. Governor Merazek's priests determined that it came through Sturthal on a very precise schedule. It would appear at a few locations near Sturthal every 73 hours. Well, among the nobles, it became a sort of adventure. We would dare one another to board the Kina, or even hold parties at a location where it was scheduled to appear. It was exciting. I knew people who went on such journeys and came back with the most wonderful tales. They spent a couple of days meeting strange, fascinating people, visiting wild locales. Some, I am fairly certain, were not even in the Ninth World. I had to see for myself. So about a year ago, my friends and I threw a Kina gala. In anticipation of its arrival, we packed and dressed for adventure, and when the carriage arrived, we boarded it immediately. She clasped her hands in front of her and sighs. Sadly, that was the Kina's final journey. It crashed here, tunneling through part of the bloom. Most of the passengers were killed in the crash, and the rest in the months since. I am all that's left of the voyage. You are a very strong person to have survived for so long. I never considered myself strong. If I was truly strong, I might have kept the others alive too, she sighs. But thank you. Where is Sturthal? Hundreds of kilometers from here, from what I've learned. As I understand it, the bloom is located in what we in Sturthal call the Beyond, or actually Beyond the Beyond, as I had never heard of the Sagus Protectorate, or any of the places people talk about here. Sturthal is one of the largest cities in the Steadfast. It perches on the edge of an enormous rift in the ground called Voile Chasm. Some streets and buildings even protrude from the cliffsides, not unlike your Sagus Cliffs as I understand it. It's a cultural jewel in an otherwise war-torn nation. Let's look at her closely. You notice immediately that her rags are actually made out of a high-quality fabric. It appears that they were once a fine green dress or gown, though it is now filthy and torn. She catches you looking and straightens her posture, seeming almost regal for a second. Well, I'd like to sleep. Of course, that'll be 65 shins each. Each? You must be out of your mind, lady. Oh, looks like Eridus wants to talk to us about something.
Oh? Oh, it's you. Can I ask you something?
If you didn't know better, you'd think he looked thoughtful. He rubs the side of his face, then the corners of his sleep-bruised eyes. I've been pondering some things for over an hour about what happened back there in Mielavest. All those people with stories so like your own, and now so many of them have just stopped, and I barely knew them at all. How? He pauses, toying with his doublet and staring at the sky. His glow pulses, growing brighter and brighter until it's hard to look at him directly. How are they supposed to be part of my story if they're dead? You talk about them like they didn't exist before you came along. They were important too. Oh, I know, he says, chuckling. I didn't think they appeared the moment I arrived. He shakes his head. It must have been so hard for them, you know, waiting for me to get there, knowing that things would be so boring until I did. Then he slaps his forehead. We weren't talking about me, we're talking about your family. There he begins, then winces. The glow around him is glowing brighter than it ever has before. He doesn't appear to notice, however. Their stories are over now, aren't they? I mean, unless they come back at some dramatic moment, more powerful than they were before. I love doing that. But assuming that doesn't happen, what does it mean? Their stories matter to them, I think. But what do they matter now? The golden light of his aura and his casual words can't quite hide the glimmering beads of sweat rolling down his cheeks. I like to think they live on in our memories. If nowhere else, the stories of theirs that we know are part of something larger now. Yes, he says wistfully, a larger story. I've always lived a life to the next adventure, but now I'm wondering where it will end. What will it be like? He pauses, shocked by his own thought. What will happen after? Oh my god, we've given him thoughts of the afterlife.
Let's go.
What is that? This wagon is laden with basic supplies from outside the bloom. Interesting. Looks like there's a bunch of merchants standing by a guy named Parson Flint. There's a Memavira thug or two. Anyone else named here? Waits for Prey looks kind of sketchy. And Waits for Prey isn't exactly the most soothing name in the world. Let's quick save here and talk to Parson Flint. The fat little man turns towards you, a wide smile already on his face. Indeed, his smile is unnaturally wide, reaching almost to his ears. You notice that his mouth contains 2 rows of white, well-manicured teeth. So he's the Cheshire Cat, sort of? You catch me in the midst of an auction, sir, but no need to beg pardon. My clients will wait. He leans forward conspiratorially. I find that a short delay in the proceedings gets them talking amongst themselves and sparks their competitive natures. Good for prices. The smile gets even wider if that's possible. Parson Flint is my name, and the disbursement of so-called slaves to so-called owners for the betterment of both parties is my trade. What sort of slave are you looking for? Why would I want a slave? Flint blinks in surprise, but his smile doesn't falter. To feed maws, of course, unless you're planning to let them feed on you, but I wouldn't advise that. The little man shudders dramatically to emphasize his point. Naturally, it helps to know what a maw wants before you go buying a slave. Not much point in buying a slave who isn't appetizing to the maw in question. Then he adds in a whisper, you'd be surprised how many people make that mistake. Flint gives you a knowing wink as if to emphasize the silliness of those people. Rin tugs urgently at your garment, and you glance down at her. You have to buy one. Buy all of them if you can. Flint notices the little girl for the first time. Oh, what a darling child you have there, and smart too. Are you looking forward to feeding your slave to a maw, my dear? Not for a maw, Rin whispers, ignoring the little man. We have to set them free. Sure, I'll buy a slave, why not? Flint's eyes light up. If his smile got any wider, it would tear itself off his face and go scampering away. So you're a registered merchant, are you? Got all the proper documents signed and stamped in all the right places? I'm going to wave my Jedi mind trick hand. We don't need official documents to make a deal. One of Flint's eyebrows rise absurdly high. Ridiculous, he exclaims. Of course I need official documentation. Do you take me for a scofflaw, sir? Suddenly, Flint lowers his voice and leans towards you. Sorry, have to keep up the appearances. In truth, I'd be happy to make a deal, so long as the relevant authorities are none the wiser. Go on. One of my slaves is not attracting any buyers. He's a young fellow, fresh from the streets of Sagiss, but I fear he's only a thief, not a murderer or sadist at all. You can imagine how it's gone over with my clients. Since I cannot sell him in a legitimate manner, I am forced to go under the proverbial table. You may have him for a mere, 400 shins. No refunds, returns, or restitution. Flint flashes a disturbingly wide and toothy grin. I'll give you 250. That slave isn't a hardened criminal. No one's going to give you a better offer. 85? We have tons of int. We'll just 100% that. You have a professional manner about you, and I like that. I'll accept 300 shins and not a single shin less. Moreover, Flint draws himself up. This offer is conditional upon your immediate acceptance. Walk away from it now, and it's gone for good. Fine, 300 it is. Very good indeed. Flint grabs your hand with both of his, shakes it vigorously, then gathers up your shins, shoving them into various pockets and purses, and then he shakes your hand again, both of them this time, and the deal is struck. Next to you, Rin is bouncing on the balls of her feet, doing a poor job of containing her smile. Your property shall be extradited from the pit momentarily. I believe his name is Cody? We got an achievement called Private Property. Let's meet our little slave friend. The young man takes a deep breath, as though preparing himself for something. He looks directly into your eyes. His expression is not merely sober, it is resigned and emotionless, almost dead. So what now? What are you good at? He grimaces. Stealing's all I've ever known, really. He thinks for a moment. Guess I'm good with my hands. Could you steal for me? What? I thought we were gonna free him. Oh, alright, Cody, I want to free you. Raiden clutches at your wrist, a smile bursting across her face. What? A mix of emotions you can't read washes over his face. Why? I'm a criminal, a killer. You can't set me free. A killer? I thought you were only a thief. He looks away, but not before you catch a wet shine on his eyes. I killed my sister. We were kids. I used to play pranks on her all the time. Stupid pranks. But I never meant any harm. But one time, he swallows hard twice. Then his story bursts out of him like water from a dam. Cassandra couldn't swim, right? But she loved the water. I'll be right back. She'd go out on the harbor every day in this little coracle. Just to scare her, I dug a leak in the boat. Then I hid behind a rock and waited for her to come, but He looks out at his feet, his face completely shadowed. I fell asleep. I woke up to her screaming, but she was too far out. I was too late to save her. So you turned yourself in as a murderer. I can understand that. I didn't turn myself in for a long time. I spent 10 years running, wishing I could just cut out my heart so I wouldn't have to feel the guilt and pain anymore. He clutches his chest for emphasis. The third time they caught me for stealing. They told me I was a man now, responsible for my actions and old enough for a man's prison. I thought about what that meant, to be a man, to own what I did, and I decided I had to start over, but not before I'd paid for what I'd done. I heard others volunteer for slavery, like letting the bloom decide whether you were worthy of freedom or not. I decided one way or another that's how I would be free too. Your sister's death is past. She lived her life. I free you to live yours. Alright, I guess. But what will I do? I only know how to steal. Probably just end up in prison again. What if I found you a job? Yeah, alright. You're the boss, I guess.
I'll remember that.
Great, now we have to find some dude a job. We could just feed him to Waits for Prey, who is surrounded by bones. That's never a great sign. Anybody else in this place? Aside from... There's some refugis. There's a door with a bruska in front of it. This thing is interactable. Let's go do that. Then we'll go talk to Waits for Prey. There's also another pond there. A panel has fallen away from the side of this crashed Katina, exposing a compartment that is filled with machinery. Waves of energy radiate from it like a heat haze. Let's examine it. Most of the machinery in the compartment is smashed and unrecognizable, hanging by wires and strips of torn synth. In the open spaces between the machines, tiny vortices of light and energy occasionally spring into being, obliterate everything they happen to touch, and then vanish again. You recognize the vortices as minuscule singularities in space-time. Their presence suggests that this Katina is powered by a trans-dimensional power source, which might be accessible from its aft section. As your eyes grow accustomed to the weird, blurry haze, you notice a synth canister near the back of the compartment. It appears to be intact. If you stretch out your arm, you might be able to reach it, but if a vortex opens at the wrong time, you could be seriously hurt. We're gonna quick fingers this. She's good for 100%. Easily, with no effort. You reach into the compartment, fingers scrambling at the smooth synth of the canister, trying to work it loose. A tiny vortex flares to life near your arm, but you snatch it away, and the vortex misses you by a few centimeters. With a final twist, you pull the canister free. The canister is icy cold to the touch. On one end, you find a release valve. If you open it all the way, the coolant can be sprayed out, freezing anything it touches. Fancy. Anything else in this thing?
Going.
There's nothing there. Okay. Are you... No, if you... Nope. This massive vehicle appears to have crashed through the nearby wall. Bloom flesh has resealed the hole and is beginning to grow across the vehicle's surface. You recognize the vehicle as a Katina, a hyperdimensional transport from a prior world.
Why, of course.
Seems like the prior world was a lot better than this one, in my opinion, but whatever.
Of course.
Waits for Prey is our next conversation choice. A metal construct stands before you, silent and still. Its armor is pitted and ancient, spiked with metal thorns. Instead of arms, the construct has long, killing blades, sharpened to a gleaming edge. What are you doing? Kina whispers. I wouldn't talk to this monster. I've seen it kill some powerful people, and some powerful not people too. What are all these bones and armor on the ground? The construct stirs, and a voice emanates from somewhere in its depths. It has a hollow, empty sound, as if it speaks from some vast cavern underground. Detritus of beasts and men. It is all that remains of those who sought to best me. Who are you? I am a soldier, a predator. My names are as numerous as the wars in which I have fought. But those wars are finished now, and I have left many names behind. Give me a name. Some. I remember all my names. Exonarch, Series 14. Genshiro, Mark 10. When I was bodyguard to Vostalalo, he called me his barber of flesh, and made of me a boogeyman, feared and hated in every nation he conquered. The construct says nothing after that, but the hisses and whirs inside of its armor make a great deal of noise for what seems a long time. Who created you? I do not know, nor have I ever known. They culled all record of themselves from our minds. I only remember that for those for whom I fought, and there have been many such masters over many long millennia of service. For a time, I believe, my siblings and I slept. I do not know for how long. Then we were awakened by new masters, the Tabat. We fought for them until they were no more. What happened to the Tabat? The construct's blade arms twitched convulsively. A vast explosion buried the underspine and their city, and most of my siblings as well. The remaining Tabat were hunted and slain by those they had ruled and enslaved, and I was left alone, save for a few of my kind. You fought for the Tabat? What do you remember of them? Much. They ruled this land as warlords before the building of Sage's Cliffs. They were slaves to an edifice known as the Underspine, yet they were its masters as well. I do not know where they came from, or who they were before they rose to power, for those things happened before they awakened me. I remember this too. They held single combat as the highest virtue, revealing the quality of one's soul. They believed that we had powerful souls, my siblings and I, for none of them could defeat us alone. They fought on two-legged beasts, brandishing weapons of another age, unearthed from great hoards beneath the ground. That is also where they found me and my siblings. They awakened us, spoke the proper words, so we killed on their command. Got some other questions. What are you doing here? Waiting. The world is hollow and cold. For those who are strong, and feared for the predators who walk the bloom. They come here, at times, to challenge me. If I prove myself to be a predator above all others, I believe that the bloom tongues will catch my scent. The clicks and hisses from inside the construct's armor suddenly go quiet. I wish to be devoured by the bloom. Have you not seen those who have passed through the gullet of the bloom? Every trace of who they were has been stripped away from them. They are freed from the trappings of memory and self. Reborn. Why do you crave rebirth? How many years have you lived? Only a few, judging by the firmness of your flesh. In that time, what horrors have you witnessed, or perpetrated? Do they slip into your mind in unguarded moments? Perhaps they do. Whatever horrors you've seen, multiply them by 1,000, 100,000, across a vast, grinding millennium of wars. Now imagine that you cannot forget, cannot even distract yourself with other memories. Do you know what I remember? Only those things that would make me a better killer. Every severed limb, every gout of heart's blood, every cruel execution before a cheering crowd. All else is lost, and that is how my creators fashioned my brain. That is why I crave rebirth and forgetfulness. You claim to be troubled by these violent things you've seen or done, but you're a killing machine. Why should those things bother you? A long moment passes before the construct speaks. I have pondered that question for all the years since I awoke in your world, and also during the long aeons of my sleep. For centuries, I felt no such revulsion at the memories of my past, but over time the horror grew in my mind, and in the minds of all my brethren. The construct pauses again as it considers its next words. I have come to believe that our creators intended this. Perhaps they understood the terrors we would visit upon the world, and this was their way of ensuring that we would not endure forever. If our foes did not destroy us, then we would be driven to destroy ourselves. I haven't met anyone who's been eaten by the bloom and lived. Walk the innards of this city monster for long enough, and you will meet them. A series of lights flash in quick succession on one of the construct's faceplates. Even now I can taste the trans-dimensional footfalls of one such man. You may find him in the vast interior space beyond the arterial opening there. The construct gestures with one bladed arm to its right. Once he possessed the name that was well known in this place before it was stolen by another. Now he walks alone and forgotten, and without fear. I have other questions. Well, I'm going to challenge him to combat in a second here. We're going to go rest first.
Here comes the boredom slayer.
We're probably going to use Eridus to fight him, but if we can't use Eridus to fight him, we're going to fight him alone. I'd like to sleep here. It's going to be damn expensive. Actually, you know what? I'm going to try and lie to her and get free sleep, because it's expensive. 65 bucks each is 260 for the group. She looks at you sympathetically. We are both refugees, are we not? Trapped inside this god's forsaken thing. I can let you stay here for free once, but no more. She directs you towards her empty hut. I'll bring you a meal shortly. It's not much, but it's food. May you sleep well tonight. I feel bad for lying,
A little more of that.
but at the same time...
Now that's the stuff.
What the hell is that thing? Did I just miss that before?
That's something I could do.
What's an Annina? We'll deal with that in a moment. I want to challenge you to combat. Yes, Eridus says, hopping from foot to foot. We do, you are challenged. The construct's blade arms suddenly clench, whirring into new configuration, with such speed that your eyes cannot follow. A moment ago they seemed sleek and clinical, like a surgeon's well-honed knife. Now they are jagged and cruel. Why would you ask this? Its voice is suddenly different, higher-pitched, and grating like the scrape of a hacksaw across a rough metal surface. Because you are a killer, and as long as you're here, you're going to keep killing for your own selfish ends. I only kill those who prey upon others of their kind. If you were so concerned with saving lives, you would not hinder me. No, I will not fight you. Faster than your eyes can follow, the blade arms swing back to their sleek, original shape, and the voice becomes hollow once more. In the eyes of the Bloom, you are no great predator. No purpose would be served by your death. Is it serious? Eridus looks back and forth between you and the construct. All those spikes and blades and blood-making, flesh-cutting things, and he doesn't want to fight? Leave me to my watch, and do not challenge me again. I'm going to attack it anyways. A pointless gesture, the construct hisses, and now your dying scream will haunt my memory with all the rest. At once, the bubble of shimmering force surrounds you and the construct, and you feel yourself torn from the material world into a very different place. I just kind of want to see what happens, in all honesty. We might die horrifically, but we quick saved so we can just reload. Alright, here we go. Crisis initiated. It has 200 health. It's out of range. You know what, let's just wait here. That's gonna hurt. We should have spread out. It missed. But 2 people got hit. Okay, last cast off. You're up. Go hammer it. Full blast.
I'm barely hurting it.
Okay, that sucked. Let's make it 100%. And try and get... Where can I move to? Farthest I can move is there,
Learning
okay.
begets doing. Or is it the other way?
Now... We can't quite reach it to attack.
I'll handle it. Let's go.
Okay, we'll get Inspiring Presence then, and... We'll go this way.
Sure.
We need to flank it. Oh, we walked out of the, Can he get into range? No.
Happy to help. Look out, villains! Trouble coming your way. Look out, villains! Trouble coming your way.
Okay, we are in range. We blink stepped to Kina and missed. And I blink stepped again to Kina again.
You want
And
my
hit
help?
for 18. Holy crap.
Kill me. I'm ready for whatever comes.
That was more damage. So we're gonna use a healing spray.
That's better.
12 damage, that's not bad. We've chewed through about a 20% of its
I'm
life or so.
6 times better than I was seconds ago.
That was an awesome hit. No, Rin! Oh, good, I missed. No, Rin!
Ugh!
Ooh.
Do you have anything that stops bleeding? Or dying?
Nothing can stop me now.
Could someone lend me a hand?
Yes, I will heal you. Don't worry,
Not
Rin.
you all. That's a lot better.
Can you re-hide? Okay, she should be good now. We have about half of its life done.
Something you might not expect. I can barely scratch this thing.
Alright, let's hammer it full blast. All we can do.
Da-da-da!
72 life left. It's pretty good. And just move into flanking position, I guess.
Why, of course.
It's immune to being flanked. Oh, good. That's gonna suck. Rockets are never a good sign.
Want my help? Heal me.
Rin is actually potentially dead. We don't want to do that. We want to move around behind it first.
Yes.
We want to push it towards our other characters.
Get over here. I need healing.
We don't have any healers left alive, so... Kina's down as well.
Someone needs to smash
Eritas is not, though.
some healing.
I just want to see what happens if we win at this point.
I was seconds ago.
We might
Your
win.
hero would be dead by now. Vanquished!
Okay. That was tough, and
Fine.
so... Did we win? Oh, there we go, there's some loot. There's a waits for prey head, and a quantum detonation.
These ciphers are killing me.
We killed a war machine. That was actually a pretty rough fight. We should probably go sleep again, but now we have cipher poisoning, so we need to give that to somebody else.
If you're sure it's safe.
Cool. That worked out really well. Let's give a cipher to somebody else. Hypercoolant spray. You know what? Let's give this to Rin. She can blow somebody up. Perfect.
Yes.
We need to go rest. We won't lie to her again. 260 shins just to sleep. Good
Thanks.
grief. No more fighting for a bit though. That sucked. Actually, we're almost out of time on this video. Let's talk to Annina and then we'll call it. A large, agitated beast looms over you. It's an Annina, a beast of burden. These creatures are normally docile, but this one bares its teeth and snaps at you as you draw near. It rakes the air with its stubby claws. Let's examine it. Staying just out of biting range, you can see blood around the Annina's mouth. It looks like it has been bleeding or possibly feeding on something. Let's try and touch it. As you approach, it snaps its head forward, snarling. Let's try and pull our hand back. We will use our hand expert. You jerk your hand back and the Annina's jaws snap shut scant inches from your fingertips. It's just not a happy Annina, okay? A pale, heavy-set merchant woman stands by an agitated Annina. Her eyes seem to have trouble focusing on you, and when they do, she drops them, her hands nervously adjusting the scarf around her neck. I'm Cody. You here to trade? Yeah, actually I am. I have lots of things for trade, like this garbagey armor. Please take it off my hands for me. And this, I don't know. Nothing? We have nothing else? What does she have, I guess? Better question. A cipher, a bonded... a clockwork strut, which is quick finger skill and evasion. Another cipher. Another artifact. +1 effort on non-combat tasks. That's actually kind of nice. And then just... some normal weapons, it looks like. Nothing particularly cool. How many spray flesh do we have kicking around? 0 now. Tell you what, I will buy your spray flesh. Thank you.
All right.
Now what is this?
I'm ready.
I'm going to interact with it. This pool is filled with the yellowish water that falls from above. The surrounding bloom flesh is wet with hand and footprints, suggesting that this is a common place for bloom dwellers to wash and drink. Let's look into the pool. The pool extends downward like the circular shaft of a well. If it has a bottom, you cannot see it from here. In the depths of the pool, your sharp eyes catch sight of a long, worm-like shape. It appears to be caught on a projection of bloom flesh, and is wriggling helplessly about. Well, we have Eridus for this exact thing. You plunge into the murky fluid. As you dive deeper, you see that the shaft opens into a much larger cavity. At the edge of the large space, you reach the wriggling shape you saw from above, and struggle to untangle it from a bony knot of bloom flesh. Finally, it slips free, and you swim for the surface, reaching the top just before you run out of air. Great, we have another sight for sickness. In the light of the courtyard, you see that the wriggling object is some sort of bloated worm. Its skin continually shifting from one material to another, silvery metal, to pliable synth, to leathery scales, to other materials that you can't identify. It seems to be drawn to your exposed flesh, and it would likely fasten itself around your arm or leg if you allowed it to do so. Let's collect some water. I'm gonna drink some. You take a sip of the yellowish water. It has a greasy texture and a slightly sour taste, but it quenches your thirst. You take another sip, and you start to hear whispers. They're faint at first, but they grow louder, resolving into chittering voices of the bloom. They buzz in your ears, scratching at the inside of your skull. You stumble, struggling to keep your balance. Even as your senses dull, the bloom's voices seem clearer than before. Okay. What does bloom fettle do? Eerie whispers fill your mind, hinting at countless secrets to uncover, and they will last until our next sleep.
Let's go.
Alright, let's go into the next area, but we're going to do that in the next video. So like always, if you have any suggestions or comments, please leave them below. Others, I'll see you guys next time. Take care.